Hi there, this is Craig from Rock Guitar Training. What we're going to do in this video is look at a new exercise for memorising octave fingerings. Now, I'm not sure if you've seen the first video, but in that video we looked at 4 different fingerings and we moved those fingerings across the different pairs of strings. Now what we're going to do in this video is look at 3 new fingerings. They're a little bit more advanced than the previous fingerings, but I think they're still good to know. So probably the best thing I can do now is zoom in and I'll show you the exercise. Now that I've zoomed in a little bit closer, what I'm going to do is demonstrate the octave memorization exercise number 2. So what I'll do is I'll play through it a couple of times and then I'll talk a little bit about it. And I'll do it again, but just a little bit faster. Now what I'm doing there is taking a D note and playing it in octaves. So as an example, we're starting off with the D note at the 10th fret with our little finger on the low E string, and then what I'm doing is I'm playing the note that's an octave higher, so that's the D note at the 7th fret on the G string. So I'm using fingers 4 and 1. And then what I do is I move to the next string pair, so we've got our 3rd finger on the D note at the 5th fret on the A string, and our 1st finger at the D note on the 3rd fret on the B string. And then we move to the final string pair and we have the D note with our 3rd finger at the 12th fret on the D string. And then we go up an octave and play the D note at the 10th fret on the thinnest string with our 1st finger. So basically for the first octave I'm using fingers 4 and 1, and then I use fingers 3 and 1, and then fingers 3 and 1. Now the way that I'm picking these octaves is I'm using my pick, using a downstroke on the lowest sounding note of each octave, and then I'm using the ring finger, the 3rd finger of my picking hand, to pluck the higher sounding string. So when I'm doing this octave here, my 3rd finger is plucking the notes that is on the G string. So I do that at the same time. Now what's really important is I'm also paying attention to the muting the strings that are in between the octave notes. So if I play this first octave here, I need to mute the A string and the D string. And so what I'm doing is I'm using my little finger to lightly touch the A string. So it's like the underside of my little finger. I'm getting a bit of a harmonic there, but you get the idea. And then what I'm doing is I'm using the tip of my index finger to mute the D string. So if I pick the D string, you can hear that's muted. And then when I move to the 2nd octave, my 3rd finger is muting the D string, and my 1st finger, the tip of my 1st finger, is muting the G string. And for the final octave, I'm using the same muting technique. So my 3rd finger is muting the G string, and the tip of my index finger is muting the B string. So another way of practicing the exercise is to do this. Now what I'm doing there, as you can see, is I'm plucking the octave and then I'm picking the two strings in between the octave notes to check that I'm doing a good job of muting. Now I should say here, you don't have to necessarily mute those strings the same as me, but I just wanted to explain how I do it. Now one last thing is, each time you practice this exercise you should choose a different note. So as an example, if I was to do it for an A note, I would start with this octave here, so my little finger on the A note at the 5th fret on the low E string, and my first finger on the A note at the 2nd fret on the G string. And then I'd move to the next string pair and play the A note with my 3rd finger at the 12th fret on the A string, and then the A note at the 10th fret on the B string. And that's with the first finger. And then I'd move to the final string pair where my 3rd finger is playing the A note at the 7th fret on the D string, and my first finger is playing the A note at the 5th fret of the thin E string, the first string. So I'll just do this exercise for the note A once so you can see how it looks. And what I'll do is I'll pick the strings to check I'm muting effectively. Okay, that's the exercise. Not much more I need to say about it. So, like I mentioned in the earlier video, a good way of practicing the exercise is to maybe do it 3 times a week for around 5 minutes each time. And you just keep on doing that until you feel you've totally ingrained those fingerings into your brain. And one last thing, if you're watching this video on YouTube, then be sure to click on the link below. There should be a link hopefully, and go to my website and you can check out the full lesson now.